This is where you gotta push past your limits. If you don't, then your path ends here.
Motivation comes and goes. When you're driven, whatever's in front of you will get destroyed.
Life is stressful. And so to wish that life weren't stressful is to wish to not be alive.
You know what, if they misunderstand you, let them.
You know, meaning you better go out there and do it yourself.
Some guys, they just want to do anything to win.
Just get started. The longest time in the world is the hesitation between thought and action.
Is this going to make me better? No. It goes. Is this going to help my life? No. It goes.
And the meta rule is you have to discipline yourself. Do the best thing that you can think of.
You are able to get up every morning, have no passion, no drive, no motivation, no and still get up with that kind of fire. You will be successful in life. I guarantee you that.
I know my own destiny, Uncle.
Is it your own destiny? Or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you?
If they underestimate you, let them. If they doubt you, let them. Just let them. Because how other people perceive us, how they choose to see us through their own scope, firstly is not within our control, and secondly does not decide who we are. It does not determine our truth or our fate. We do.
Well, you can do anything that you want to do.
Fear isn't the enemy. It's the test. The quiet voice that asks, "Are you sure?" The shadow that stands at the gate of every meaningful pursuit. See, fear is clever. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It convinces you to stay still, that you're not good enough, that you'll embarrass yourself, lose everything, be rejected, be alone. And you believe it because it sounds a lot like you. But let me ask you something. When has fear ever shown up when you were doing something safe? It only comes when you're near something that matters. You think fear is a stop sign, but really, it's a signpost. It means you're getting closer. Closer to the version of yourself that doesn't settle. Closer to the life that doesn't come with a safety net. Fear's job is to protect the current you, but your job is to become the next you. So you have a choice. Bow to fear and stay familiar, or walk into it, become unrecognizable.
Fear doesn't kick down the door, it knocks quietly. Sometimes it doesn't even knock at all. It just slips in, unnoticed, and makes itself at home. It doesn't wear a mask or a monster's face. It looks like caution, sounds like common sense, feels like your best friend, concerned for your safety. You tell yourself you're being smart, being logical. You tell yourself that now just isn't the right time. You don't call it fear, you call it timing, you call it planning, you call it waiting for the perfect moment. But let me ask you something. How many perfect moments have you missed? Fear learned that it doesn't need to scream, it just needs to reason with you. It says, what if you're not ready? What if they laugh? What if you fail publicly? What if this changes everything? And it's got evidence too. All the times you fell, all the times you were rejected, all the scars you thought you'd buried. So you listen, because fear knows you. It speaks your language. It remembers your history. It uses your voice. But here's what fear forgets to mention. Every breakthrough in your life, every defining moment, came after you did something that scared the hell out of you. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're wired. But wiring isn't destiny. It's just the starting point. You've been taught that fear means stop. That fear is a red light. But what if fear is a green light? What if it's not a warning, but a signal? Fear only appears when you're about to grow.
Mastery is a function of mastery of self. And I think greatness or mastery is pursued in the process of self-knowledge and self-understanding in a fearless and courageous way. Are you courageous enough to really look within yourself and try to excavate and understand who you are, to address your blind spots, and mastery will be a byproduct of that journey that you go on, which is a lifetime of journey. It's a path that you will trod that is not linear and fraught and confusing most of the time, that will have you going backwards, a percentage of that time. That's what we're here to do, man. We're here to grow. You cannot be a master in anything that you do unless you are a master of the self.
If there would be no fear, there would be nothing unknown, nothing uncomfortable. So what does it mean? It means you could already see into the future what in 2025 you're gonna do, where you are going to be. And in 2025, exactly this is going to happen. So for me, the question is, it feels really boring that just what you put to your mind and then just it comes 2 years later exactly the way how it is. Nothing better can come, because what can happen is dependent on how much you can imagine.
You gotta stop watching someone else put in the work and live the dream. Don't watch me run. Go run. Stop consuming and start producing. There are a handful of people out there living their freaking lives, and the rest of the world floats around watching them from afar like it's reality TV, as if it couldn't be them. You realize you can literally do whatever the heck you want, right? Stop sitting in the audience and just get started.
And they'll be right. And that's what's painful, is that it takes more effort to start in the beginning, and more people are right about the fact, they're like, hey, you're not gonna hit it big. And guess what, a month in, you're not. But they're only measuring on months. And at 6 months, you're also not gonna have hit it big yet. And they're gonna be like, I'm fucking right. And at a year, you're still not gonna have hit it big. And they'll still be fucking right. And every day that you haven't hit it, they're gonna feel like they were right. But they're wrong, because they're measuring in days and you're measuring in decades.
Pick up the world on your shoulders and walk forward.
Excuses don't build success. Hard work does.
If I'm consistent, I give myself the opportunity to be exceptional. I feel as if it's a lot of exceptional people that are not consistent.
But what if fear is a green light? What if it's not a warning, but a signal? Fear only appears when you're about to grow. So instead of running away from fear, what if you started chasing it? We crave certainty, but certainty is a prison disguised as peace. Everything you want exists on the other side of not knowing, of jumping, of trusting something without guarantees. Fear says, don't do it unless you're sure. But confidence is a consequence, not a prerequisite. You earn it after the leap, not before. You want to be fearless? Let go of certainty. Let go of needing all the answers. Courage is not the absence of doubt. It's moving forward while doubt is screaming your name. Here's the part no one tells you. Fear doesn't just stop you from acting. It starts to shape who you think you are. You stop trying and start shrinking. You say, I'm just not the kind of person who does that. I'm not a risk taker. I'm shy. I'm not built for that. That's not identity. That's fear in disguise. That's you forgetting who you were before the world told you to play small. Let me remind you, you were born fearless. You touched fire. You ran toward the unknown. You asked why 100 times a day. You weren't afraid to be seen. Fear taught you that. And if fear taught it, it can be unlearned. Fear's greatest trick was convincing you that it was telling the truth. But fear lies. It exaggerates. It catastrophizes. It tells you the worst-case scenario as if it's inevitable. And the more you listen, the more you believe. Fear says, this will destroy you. Reality says, this will forge you. Fear says, you'll be alone. Reality says, you'll finally meet who you really are. Fear says, you'll fail. Reality says, you'll learn faster than ever before. So don't ask, what if it goes wrong? Ask, what if it finally goes right? We talk so much about fear of failure, but most people aren't afraid of falling. They're afraid of rising. Because if you rise, you'll have to become someone new. You'll have to leave behind the version of you that everyone knows, the one they're comfortable with. And that's terrifying. Who are you? Without your limits, without your story, without your excuses. That's the real fear.
Put the best plan you have into practice. It's not going to be perfect, and it will change along the way. But it will change partly because you become disciplined pursuing the path. And as you become disciplined, you become wiser. And as you become wiser, you become able to formulate better and better plans. So you can start vaguely and confused and develop a plan that's not so great, and you start to implement it, and then you accrue incremental wisdom as you implement your flawed plan.
You're afraid of failure. Because if you're successful, you now have responsibility. There's pressure that comes with trying something and putting your name out there. And if I don't ever try anything, if I don't bother, if I blame the world, I blame my parents, I blame my education system, I blame my partner, this, that, and the other, then you never have to worry, you never have to have that responsibility, you never have to have that fear of success. And that holds people back.
What do you want to give up? What do you want to sacrifice? How bad do you want this? Most people don't want it that badly.
If we shift our focus to what is within, then what else?
The true change comes from you. The true change comes from within us. That's where it comes from. Each individual taking ownership of what the fuck they need to do in life. Period. That's all it comes down to.
There's people out there that don't want to see you do good. As you know, there's people out there that don't want to see you happy, don't want to see you accomplish anything, don't want to see you grow. There's people out there that don't want to see you beat everything that you want. There's people out there that are threatened by your greatness.
You know, if you take people and you expose them voluntarily to things that they are avoiding and are afraid of, you know, that they know they need to overcome in order to meet their goals, their self-defined goals. If you can teach people to stand up in the face of the things they're afraid of, they get stronger. The things that you do and that you don't do are far more important than you think. And so if you act that way, of course, the terror of realizing that is that it actually starts to matter what you do. And you might say, well, that's better than living a meaningless existence. It's better for it to matter. But I mean, if you really asked yourself, would you be so sure if you had the choice? I can live with no responsibility whatsoever. The price I pay is that nothing matters. Or I can reverse it and everything matters. But I have to take the responsibility that's associated with that. It's not so obvious to me that people would take the meaningful path. All my belief systems have collapsed. It's like, yeah, maybe. Maybe you've just allowed them to collapse because it's a hell of a lot easier than acting them out.
Recreating you, and you have the power to do that. You can decide that you're going to change. You can decide that you're going to stand up to life. You can decide that I'm going to live each day as if it were my last.
You're not trying to get to perfection right now. You're just trying to get a little bit better than you were yesterday or an hour ago.
You gotta start protecting your life. Everybody don't deserve you. Everybody don't deserve access to your life.
Because you're not everything you could be, and you know it. Perhaps there's another way that you could look at the world, and so what it would reflect back to you would be much better than what it reflects back to you now.
Breakdowns happen right before breakthroughs. So I pray you break that cycle that's trying to break you. I pray you kill those thoughts that are trying to kill you. No mistake is too great, as long as you forgive you. You always have a choice. Never stay silent about your battles. Give your pain a voice. It's okay to not be okay. We're all one struggle away. Your change is gonna come. You just keep believing day by day. This storm will eventually run out of rain.
And there are things, as you have your goals, things are going to happen to you that you can't anticipate. Some of you are in the eye of the storm now. Things are going to happen. And Don't say, well, why does this have to happen to me? Why not you?
That's what we do. We go like, what's the meaning of life? As though someone's supposed to tell us. And he's saying, no, actually, life is asking you that question. Existence asks you that question, and you answer it with your choices and decisions and the life. So your life is the answer.
Because if you think that action is the end-all be-all, you end up doing action for the sake of doing action, right? So I feel like I should always be doing and doing and doing, but sometimes you're just supposed to be. And oftentimes just sort of being there and sitting there and being still is where really great insights come from. And this is also where happiness comes from. You know, it's hard to be happy and appreciate and feel gratitude when you're just moving all the time. You gotta remember it's human being, not human doing.
And most people are not in the moment. And it's really challenging. You know, monitoring your thoughts is noticing where your mind is going, noticing what you're thinking. And is what you're thinking taking you away from the moment? Is what you're thinking something that's driven by the past? Is what you're thinking is about something that somewhere else you want to be?
People go, okay, here's really what I want to do, and this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And then they see all these other things that other people are doing, and then they kind of see that as like a grab bag, and they're like, I want a little of this, and a little of this, and a little of this, and I want it all at the same time. And that's not really possible. I'm on a path that's taking me further away from what I want my ideal day to look like. That's not success. What does like an ideal day of your life look like? Like maybe not right now, but like what do you want a day in your life to look like? Well, what does that actually cost? Could you have that now? Do you have to have a life that you don't like so that at the end of it, potentially you're lucky enough to go there? Or could you find a way to get that now? I'm trying to think about this on a regular basis. Is my life resembling what those days are supposed to look like? And if I have too many days in a row that don't resemble what I want my day to look like, I go, I'm having the opposite of success.
I always say, like, if fear was a door and behind this door was all this negativity things that I'm saying, like I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna suck, I'm never gonna walk through that door. So in order for me to walk through the door, even though the door is super scary, I have to make empowering things on this side of the door, right? I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna grow. Even if I don't win, it's gonna be something valuable in it. So let me walk through this door, right? Even though it might not be perfect, I'm still gonna find growth inside of this.
There's times in your life when things gonna happen that you've got to begin to put your dream on hold.
If for 10 years, if you didn't avoid doing what you knew you needed to do, by your own definitions, right, within the value structure that you've created, to the degree that you've done that, what would you be like? Well, you know, there are remarkable people who come into the world from time to time, and there are people who do find out over decades-long periods what they could be like if they were who they were, if they spoke their being forward. And they get stronger and stronger and stronger, and we don't know the limits to that. We do not know the limits to that.
And so by being all in, I'm bringing all of me to it. I'm going to bring all of myself to the situation.
There isn't a better way to live your life. There's no right way and wrong way. There is only the way that gives you more energy. There is only the way that gives you fulfillment. When you have those things, when you're fulfilled by what you're doing and it's giving you, the harder you pursue it, it's giving you more energy, you're on the right path. As the Greeks would say, segolodromo, which means you're on a good road. And that's what I want people to understand. But I don't think that it is a universal path. And so the only universal path is to do the things that give you fulfillment and energy. So if spending time with your friends gives you that, then you should be spending more time with your friends. If dating gives you that, then you should be dating. So you don't need to want to be the best in the world at something. You don't need to want to make a lot of money. You don't need to want to be an entrepreneur. Like they're literally just stand-ins. They're proxies for fulfillment and energy creation. That's it. So those are the punchlines of what's the meaning of life and all of that stuff. It is to do something that makes you feel a deep sense of well-being, which I'll call fulfillment, and something that gives you energy, where you're literally excited to attack the day.
I start with identity is because I think that's the root of all our challenges, is starting at the root, not starting at the symptoms or the superficial or the surface level, but let's go to the root. If you're playing a role, if you're wearing a mask, if you're dressed in clothes that are not yours, then you end up living a life that's not yours. Because guess what? When you fake being someone for so long, you think it's your reality. And that's what happens to all of us. We play a role at work, we play a role at home, we play a role with our family, we play a role with our friends, and then we think that role is us. And we lose ourselves. And to me, that is the core reason why we're chasing things that are not important to us.
A lot of you that are running from things instead of running to things. And that's a huge difference, running from something versus running to something. And so I want you to think about that for a minute, because you don't have to move across country to change your life. And you don't have to do something drastic to experience drastic positive change. And here's the thing about running away from your problems, running away from your past. Have you ever noticed that when you run away, it tends to follow you?
All we have, which everybody talks about, is this moment, this precious second right now. So the more I could be here right now, the more I'm living, the life that I want to live. Too much about the future, too much about the past. I can use those as something to, hope for in the future, as a guiding post from the past. But right now is the moment that every one of us has.
I never really aspired to happy because happy is usually determined by external factors. I go for the joy. Because when you have joy at home, when you have joy inside, it don't matter much what's going on out here. You understand? You got your joy. And you can come home to your joy no matter what is going on in the world. Far too many of us have our happiness, our peace, our joy, our value, our worth hooked into some external stimulation. And then we wonder why we're stressed out and overweight and can't sleep.
You have those scars in your brain from life, but what we don't do is we try to hide those scars. We don't want to go back and revisit it. So I started realizing that my life was causing a whole bunch of scarring on my brain. And I had to go back and really break open that scar and let it bleed. And that was a very painful journey for me to go back.
Who are you letting ruin your dreams? What scorecard are you judging yourself by? Screw that. This is your time. This is your opportunity. This new world that we live in with access like you listening to me right now, access to so much knowledge. We have access to information. This is your time. There's no better time. There's no different time. This is your time. The only way it'll happen is if you change the story in your head. If you say, change the scorecard, change your desires, find your passion. When people tell you stop dreaming, tell them, I'm sorry you gave up on yours. I'm not quite there yet. That's the response you need to share.
Every day I'm winning. Every day I'm winning the other voice in my head. So I'm at peace with myself. The things I do for fun are like me bettering myself. But I also love accomplishing and overcoming myself every day. Because every day is a battle. Every day is a battle because your mind wants to choose the path of least resistance. Every day. But you don't become better by ever doing that. You become normal. And I don't want to be normal. So it may not be a life for everybody, but I find a lot of peace in not being normal in my life.
Dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. Goals on the road to achievement cannot be achieved without discipline and consistency.
As Shakespeare noted, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. There's nothing good or bad, right? There's just stimulus and then there's response. But people think that it is objectively a certain way. So now because they think it is objectively a certain way, they feel they are supposed to react based on those emotions that are getting kicked up in their mind. If you want to always be moving towards your goal, you want to be optimized, you got to learn to get control of your emotions. You've got to learn to understand to tell yourself a narrative that isn't predicated on necessarily identifying what is objectively true, because I don't think that we experience the world that way. It's identifying what's going to work to get me to my goal.
Your joy, your sadness, your happiness, your misery is determined by something or somebody around you. The chances of you being joyful in your life is remote. Is it true that human experience, joy or misery, agony or ecstasy, madness or sanity, everything is created from inside? At least if you're a manager, if you're going to be a manager, at least what is happening from within you must happen your way. Because essentially management means having situations the way we want it. Yes? Management means what? Having situations the way we want it. Well, if the world is not happening your way, at least this one must be happening your way, otherwise what kind of management is this?
You have to have the truth to have a starting point. So when you, like, if I'm lying to you about who I am, or I'm lying to you about whatever, there's no starting point. There's a false reality. You have to create the real reality.
Well, it's ultimately the principle that, you want to be a little bit better in some way tomorrow than you are today. But it's not going to be in a linear path. Again, these go through cycles of stress and recovery. So it's just kind of being able to surf the flow of that and know, again, it really comes down to balance. So it's the practices. You need to know what to do, for sure. And then you need to know how to apply those things in the right way.
For some reason, school and society have this way of making you feel like there's only two ways in. You're either born into it or you wait your turn. But what I've learned is that there's always the third door. And at the entrance where you have to jump out of line, run down the alley, bang on the door 100 times, crack open the window, go through the kitchen, there's always a way in. And it doesn't matter if that's how Gates sold his first piece of software or how Spielberg became the youngest director in Hollywood history, they all took the third door.
But every time I failed, I always had an excuse. I always had a reason. I was just blaming everyone else for why I wasn't succeeding in life. But after my third major failure, that's when I really stopped and realized I'm the common denominator here. I am the one person that is consistent in all three of these massive failures. And unless I'm gonna take that really serious to change the person that I am, then my outcome is never gonna change.
Once you come face to face with who you are, you have a starting point. All right, I'm not real smart. I have no courage. I have no self-esteem. I have no nothing. Nothing. That's my starting point. Now we can move from there. But if I tell myself I'm strong, I have courage, I'm smart, and all these are lies, you continuously push that starting point backwards. So that starting point is the truth.
You know, fear is a belief that something negative is going to happen rather than something positive is going to happen. So it's like, that's on the other side. You're almost believing in your failure, right? Rather than believing in your success. So you have to go attack and collapse these different fears. A lot of the fear comes because we're afraid that we're going to judge ourselves harshly or whatever. So you got to realize, like, there is no such thing as failure. There's just learning, right? So you collapse the penalty for failure. So that collapses the fear, which allows you to believe even more. So that's one way to do it. And the other way is to just look at fear itself and play out the different scenarios, know that you're going to be fine. Again, forgive yourself always. And really also just attack fear wherever you see it.
And the difference between fearlessness and courage is that fearlessness is jumping off of the cliff without thinking. Courage is acknowledging your fear, analyzing the consequences, and deciding you still care so much about it, you're going to take one step forward anyway.
That's why people gotta understand what is in us. We have no idea until we start trying hard. And I mean really trying hard, where you're obsessed with, hey, this is my new norm. My new norm is that, wow, this isn't always fun. It's not always meant to be fun. And that's when you know you're trying hard.
And if you believe there's something that's irrational that should control you, that will apply universally. So wherever you find fear specifically, collapse fear wherever you see it, and that specific collapse will help with the universal collapse of fear in general.
The key of taking that first step, it's not about trying to logically argue with those voices in our head. You will never win against the voices in your head if you try to argue with them. What I've learned is that if you, instead of focusing on the voices and the fears, you focus on the desires.
Every day, I try to wake up and work on like what excites me, what makes me feel like I'm having impact or I'm sort of fulfilling my potential in some way. So if I'm thinking about a foundational belief, it's that everyone has something that they can offer the world, and they've got to figure out what that thing is. And then they've got to make a lot of very difficult decisions, usually saying no to things that puts them in the best position to fulfill whatever that potential is.
As human beings, we are meant to grow. And when you stop growing, your soul and your heart and your spirit dies. But as you move through life, it is unavoidable to face things that are challenging, face disappointment, face things that are just absolutely heartbreaking. The ability to have self-awareness and to have the ability to pause before your emotions take over and take you down a negative spiral.
You just got to understand, the only thing that you're responsible for is your best. Like, you can't do better than your best. You just do your best. And if you try to obsess too much, you're not doing your best, you're going to be paralyzed, right? So you have to get as much information as you can, make the most educated choice, make sure that you're not choosing based on ego or emotion or, greed or these other forces that delude you and prevent you from thinking clearly. But if you do your best and you fail, like, what are you going to do? Beat yourself up for that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. If you're doing your best, if you're really laying it out there, there's nothing more you can do.
When you say, how do I make this happen? You're undoing all your work because you're operating from a place of fear. Because you're asking, how do I, little me, make it happen? And if I don't make it happen, it means it's not going to happen, which means I'm in a fear vibration. Instead, ask yourself, this is all done. I've locked it in, chosen the thermostat, I've done the work, I'm the millionaire version of me, I've cultivated my circle, I've got everything down. How can I now show up to participate in this process?
That's what we do. We go like, what's the meaning of life? As though someone's supposed to tell us. And he's saying, no, actually life is asking you that question. Existence asks you that question, and you answer it with your choices and decisions and the life. So your life is the answer, right?
Well, when you are in the face of so much uncertainty, which we all are right now, what you have to do is you have to win the battle that you can win, which is the battle with your own mind.
We all have two people. We have the easy voice, which is at 20% telling yourself that I'm easy at 90% of my full potential, maybe 100% at that 20%. That's that voice that we all love. Doesn't care how good you are, just loves you. Just loves you no matter how messed up you are in life. That's where you want to be at. So that's that one voice. This other voice that we walk very far away from is the voice saying, hey man, you ain't doing shit. So we try to get this voice out of our head completely. So what you have to do first is turn up this voice over here. The voice saying things to you that aren't nice. I'm not saying to put yourself down. I'm saying listen to the truth. And the truth isn't in the 20%. In this other 80% is suffering, pain, failure, self-doubt, darkness, and then a whole bunch of light.
Young people will always look up and reach for the highest branch they see as possible. Whether it's up to parents, whether it's up to schools. And what I've learned is that when you change what someone believes is possible, you change what becomes possible.
Leveraging your full potential, in not saying and wishing and hoping, I wish I was given more to do more, but doing your best with what you have. Those are the people who master full potential. Sometimes our dreams don't come true, but to understand with the right attitude, hey, whatever's meant to be, I'm gonna reach my full potential.
Once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over.
We are creatures of meaning, and that ultimately what will make us feel good is meaning. And one of the things that gives us meaning is our accomplishments, our achievements, our legacies. But the other register of what makes us feel meaningful is what we represent for others. It's how others carry us inside of them. After all, that's why the legacy will last, because somebody will remember what I did.
To create harmony with our body, our mind, and our hearts and our souls. And in that harmony, we realize the harmony among all humanity, all species of life, and harmony with nature.
Get up every day and do what's in front of you. Don't have grand visions and grandiose ideas about where you're gonna go and what you're gonna get and how it's gonna be when you get there. Just get up every single day and do what's in front of you. Do what you gotta do every single day, whether you feel like it or not. Have no fantasy about it. Don't need to feel good about it.
Life is going to beat up on you in so many ways, and many things, they come back. You know, negative thoughts and how you feel about yourself, they don't die. They come back once you stop doing the maintenance work on your mind, quietly listening to the still small voice within. Who am I really? Is this really me? Am I giving my best? Am I just reflecting what's around me? Because all of these various things affect how we show up in life.
I didn't know why I was born this way. I didn't believe I would actually become independent, married, now with 4 kids. Traveling around the world to talk about hope was really fantasy. I actually felt like at one stage I had no hope.
Whatever happens in our life, I want it to be like that river and flow toward the sea of truth, of love.
We are creatures of meaning. We are also wired for connection. So we want others to matter to us, and we want to feel that we matter to them. It's what allows us to move around in the world. I can walk around freely in the world because I know that there are people all over the world that are thinking of me, holding me inside of them, and I do the same.
The amazing thing about happiness, 2 things, are the people who can unchain themselves of the past are the most happiest. And those people who actually intentionally practice an attitude of gratitude.
The impulse to dream has slowly been beaten out of me through the experiences of life. You weren't going in that direction, but you unconsciously did it because you've done it so many times that many people, because they're not making a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to think outside of what life has thrown at them, they end up doing the same thing over and over and over again. Einstein said that thinking that has brought me this far has created some problems that this thinking can't solve.
An enlightened person is not a person of this denomination or that denomination. The heart of all these denominations that bring about enlightenment create a consciousness where other people's happiness becomes our happiness and other people's suffering becomes our suffering.
You have something going on in your life that you can't figure out. Yes, you can search outside of yourself for that, but you can also find moments of silence. You know, be in nature and allow that true voice that you have inside of you to come up to the surface, because that is the voice of your passion, your purpose, your enthusiasm.
Writing in a journal where you are dealing with the conscious thoughts for the first 20 minutes. But if you write in a journal for an hour, the things that come up in the 30th minute and the 50th minute are things you didn't even know existed. But a lot of times people won't let themselves get past the 15th minute. They get bored. Oh, there's all this stuff I already know.
Many people are depressed because they don't know what to live for. They haven't found something yet to die for. When you have found something to die for and live for, when you know why you do what you do, that's when purpose gives you the strength to override all limitations and fear.
The quality of our life depends on the quality of our relationships, because the relationships give you both the connection and the meaning. The meaning not just of the connection itself, but of everything else you will have done. If no one knows about it, has it really happened? Yes, I can do a lot of things by myself and for myself. But does it exist differently if others know about it, share it, distribute it, create a legacy?
Things can give some fleeting experience of satisfaction to the body, the senses, and the mind. But things, whatever they may be, cannot give fulfillment to the heart.
You get hungry by finding something that's you. I believe that all of us are born unique, but most of us die copies. You have to work on yourself, and you have to have an unstoppable attitude, and no excuse is acceptable, and you've got to make it a priority, a non-negotiable in your life, and hold a constant vision of what it is you want to achieve. See it accomplished and go all out. Find a way to win.
And when we look at our dream, we kind of think of it as, well, which season am I in of this dream and how do I treat it? Take baby steps first. The best way to build self-confidence, which is the opposite of self-doubt, is to set small goals. Do what you can now and start building on that confidence. You can't build confidence without a track record, and you can't wave a magic wand and now all of a sudden your dreams come true. What's the first step?
Those experiences of going after goals that's beyond your comfort zone and having relationships that will challenge you and surrounding yourself with coaches and mentors who can take you to a place within yourself that you can't go by yourself because you can't read the label when you're locked in the box.
In life, a lot of us believe that we're working much harder than we actually are. We think if we've got up early for 4 days, we've earned something. You gotta drop your entitled mindset. It's dead weight. We believe we work harder than we actually have. Trust me, most of us haven't. The one thing in life you gotta realize is this: learn to help yourself. Don't count on other people to help you.
When I face death, and however I may face it, every day I know that I have value. I'm achieving my greater purpose, and I know that this ain't it. And when you have that, then you make the most of everything you have.
Only to love and be loved can give satisfaction to the heart. And real happiness, real peace, is a state of the heart.
The most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. So I slowly started changing that internal dialogue in my head. And that was where the power came from. The power came from, no one's helping me, no one's coming back to save me, no one's coming back to pull me to the finish line. This is on you. So I saw a lot of power in the fact that if I change this around, I did this. I changed this around.
Secret to success, there's a system to success. And no matter what organization you become a part of, the system works if you work it. If you don't work it, it won't work. But it works if you work it. And that's one 4-letter word that most people don't like. They're not willing to work. Go in there hoping it doesn't happen. Why? Because they don't want to do the work. It's an aversion to most people's spirit.
Is that, we are more than what we're demonstrating, that we've been sold this lie, that people are taught through school. And the truth is, everyone can do this too, and so much more. Apply towards creativity and focus and flow and problem solving and thinking and really overcoming the biggest challenges of their life and maybe even the world. The challenge is we were taught a lie. We were taught a lie that somehow our intelligence, our potential, our learning, our memory somehow is fixed, or creativity is fixed, or thinking is fixed like our shoe size. This is about transcending. This is about ending the trance that we're not good enough, that we're not smart enough, that we're not this genius, and telling the truth. And the truth is we're faster and we're smarter than we think. And not just to be able to memorize things, but be able to really solve significant challenges. And maybe that these challenges that we're going through are the lessons that we need to learn the most. And then some people who learn those lessons feel compelled to be able to share that voice with other people. So it's not just one candle, we just can set things ablaze.
You gotta rise up. You gotta make your dreams a reality and live a damn masterpiece. You know this. Now, here's the thing. Couple things. You gotta make a decision. Listen to me. You gotta make a decision. What's the decision? What's the thing you came here for? Now we're at the moment. The clock is ticking. People say all the time, hey, life is short. Let me tell you something. Life can be long. You bury your dreams, you quit this, life gets long. See, time's relative. 2 minutes of you being with your sweetie, doing whatever you like to do with them, that can go by quick, right? What's about the last 2 minutes on a treadmill? Does that not seem like it goes by for like 4 hours, right? So if you're enjoying it, it's short. If it's painful, it's long. Life can be long.
Happens when you screw up your intrinsic motivation. What happened, right? When you're not living with passion, purpose, regular access to flow, all of the things that the Susan the Art of What's Possible are about, the tools that I'm breaking down. When you use them right, the result is Superman. When you use them wrong, or don't use them at all, if you're not using the organism the way the organism is designed to be used, the result is anxiety and depression. And we're in the middle of the largest anxiety and depression kind of epidemic in the history of the world. So it strikes me that there's a correlation here.
Thought that I love, which says, you know who you are when no one's watching. Like what you do when no one's watching, that's who you are. You know when you're alone what you choose. And I think that really helps you overcome your ego, because when we reflect on ourselves when no one's around, that's when we're truly uncovering who we are.
Are tired of feeling negative. You feel often that your own thoughts are the things that trip you up in life, that you wish that your mind were more positive. And what it means to be human is that your brain and your body want you to survive. Your brain and your body remember situations that scare the daylights out of you. Your brain and your body try to talk you out of anything that makes you feel risky. And your brain, given that it has been trained by situations in the past, and given that you allow it to worry all the time, you have a habit of doing it, if you're not careful and you're not deliberate, your brain will default to scary crap. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means that your brain is thinking something that's broken, and it's time for you to reset your mindset and pull it back.
You're not going to succeed on a large scale until you face the threshold of control. And once you face it, you'll face it again and again, but it'll become an old friend because you'll keep growing. What's the threshold of control? It's where you get to the edge where you feel like you just can't do it. Like if I put a dot in the middle of life and I go, this is a problem. And if you have a comfort zone that says, that's within the things I know how to deal with, go handle it. But if this is the circle of what you can deal with and the problem is way out here, it feels out of control, like I don't know what to do. So what we have to do is we have to learn to take where our comfort zone is and expand it. And the only way that happens, quite frankly, in most cases, is you face a real challenge.
You know, what's going on in the material world is totally, not the point. What matters is, do we have that vision of hope in our mind? Do we see a possible future for us to step into that will make our lives better? And as soon as you take away that vision, we don't know what to do with ourselves. And we despair, essentially. Is how we need to constantly be constructing these dreams and these visions for ourselves, and what happens when they're taken away.
You need to visit it. Like people hate working out. You're only going to visit working out maybe an hour a day. 23 other hours of the day, you're not in it. But how you become in shape is you must visit suffering, visit working out 1 hour a day. Visit suffering 1 hour a day. Visit your past failures 1 hour a day. The relationship with it is the answers are in there. They are in there. Within the suffering, go in there, and I call it the live autopsy.
Change things, it transforms things, to make things better. When I said responsibility, with great responsibility comes great power. The most important thing to be responsible for is how you feel. And we are sometimes, we're thermometers. We react to the weather, if we're honest. the economy, to politics. We react to how people treat us sometimes. But is there a gap between how someone stimulates us and how we respond? Do we have choice? The difference between a thermometer and a thermostat, though, is a thermometer reacts to the environment. What does the thermostat do, though? Yeah, it regulates, right? It helps manage. It sets a standard or a vision or a goal, and then what happens to the environment? It raises to be able to do that. Is there a difference? And so that's where we're going back to responsibility. When we're talking about being responsible, the ability to be able to respond is how you feel about things and also how you focus on things.
Fear is adaptive. You run from the unknown, run from challenges. So if you're living in survival, there's better chances of surviving if you run from the unknown. And by the way, when you're living in survival at the infinite potentials in the quantum field, you'll select the worst case scenario in your mind. And you'll begin to emotionally prepare yourself for the worst case scenario because you have better chances of surviving.
If you are fascinated, then that's an area where you're going to ask yourself one very simple question. Do I want to become the best in the world at that thing? The most important thing that passion will do for you, which is it's going to pull you through boredom, it's going to pull you through the hard times, and that's why it's really got to be something that you just are prepared to become great at. Because when you're prepared to become great, there's just these insane moments of boredom, repetition, and all of that. And if you have this burgeoning passion coming out of that, that's what's going to give you the energy to get through it.
Most people are waiting for their life to change, feel abundant, feel whole. You know, that's the old model of cause and effect. You know, if you're living with emptiness, you're living with lack, you're living with pain, most people have been conditioned that something out there has to take away this emptiness or feeling inside of them. If you were able to become familiar with gratitude, become familiar with wholeness, become familiar with abundance, to become familiar with freedom, and you're able to generate those chemicals every single day, more than likely you would be walking around feeling like your future has already happened and you would no longer be looking for it to happen.
Where you are today and where you want to go. And I'm here to tell you, it just comes down to price. There's a price to pay to become somebody new. There's a price to pay for change. One of the questions that hides behind what people are actually saying is, am I going to make it? Do I have what it takes? When you look into my future, can you see me making it? You all meet minimum requirements. Now, minimum requirements for what? For whatever you want. Is now, if you don't make it, it's on you.
We are built to constantly compare ourselves to other people. We're always thinking of what the other person has and how we are in relation to them. Are we getting as much attention as that other person? It started off when we were children. Are we getting more attention than our siblings from our parents? So we're continually comparing ourselves in rank, in power, in status to the people around us. And this is deep force within us, and it's constant, every day, every moment. You don't realize it, but you're going through that.
Who they are. Because if you don't tell yourself who you are, then you'll allow anybody else to tell you who you are. There is something inside of every child, and there's a desire to do something. But it gets lost because you should do this, you should go to school and do this, you should get a good job. And all of a sudden, they'll go to whatever has energy.
Most people don't train their mind and emotions. It's like, I think most powerful muscles to me are not physical. They're as strong as important as they are. It's like faith is a muscle, courage is a muscle, determination is a muscle, playfulness is a muscle. You know, passion unexpressed weakens. You know, faith untested gets smaller. So I'm always, I call it deep practice. I'm always pushing myself to the edge, and pushing yourself to the edge makes you stronger.
Is you're a mystery to yourself. You don't know who you are. You have patterns of behavior and you're not even understanding that. The origin of wisdom, according to the Greeks, was know thyself, right? And I believe that very firmly, that knowledge about who you are is an end in itself and will help you in so many ways become that human being that I think we all have the potential to become.
I like to say that anything that you loved as a child is connected to your inner child, which is directly connected to source.
Being willing to compete with others and to have a self-narrative around striving and pushing and doing more than other people are willing to do, that will feed your soul in a way that I can't convey. And people that are afraid to compete, people that are afraid to lean in, people that are afraid to make huge demands of themselves, they will fall by the wayside. And people that can have that discipline, that get excited about pushing themselves, being accountable, being consistent. Because ultimately, those things lead to an actual outcome.
Every single day, you got to feed and strengthen your mind. Until you do that, you're always going to be in fear. Because fear is automatic. The human brain is designed for survival. It's not designed for success. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. That's your job. I have made a decision that I'm going to live my life where I'm going to live in a beautiful state every day, no matter what. Even if it rains on my parade, even if people do things that are unjust. The reason is because in a beautiful state, just like you teach big state, everything flows. You think of the lousy states as suffering states, then you can end suffering just by ending the state.
I left everything that I loved to do as a child. That's when I said I felt like something is missing the most. As soon as I started doing everything that I loved, there was a surge of power, a surge of confidence. I wasn't insecure anymore because the emotion that had the most dominance in my thought process and in my heart process was actually being paid attention to.
So normally when we feel an emotion or we have an idea, we don't examine it. We just assume that's just natural. We came up with that on our own. I want you every single day to be examining yourself and to look at yourself. Why do I have that idea? Why am I feeling this sudden emotion? And it's not easy. It can take time and it can take a degree of introspection that you're not comfortable with. But if you begin to look at yourself and question, why do I feel this way? And examine it and look at perhaps other sources of it, then you can begin this process of understanding instead of just simply accepting that you feel or have this certain idea.
The antidote to suffering, the antidote of loss less never is appreciation. I always tell people, trade your expectation for appreciation the whole life journey. I realized that all I had to do is have my phone to be stressed. If that's true, my happiness is so cheap.
Look, you're not going to hit it every day. There's going to be days where you're off. There's going to be days where you're weak. Weak. But if that day, instead of shitting yourself, instead of saying I wasn't weak today, what are you talking about? If that day you can own it and you say, yeah, I was weak today and I'm not going to be weak tomorrow, but I'm not afraid to face that. I'm not afraid to accept that I'm not perfect. I'm not afraid to look in the mirror and say today was a bad day, then I didn't make myself proud today. But that shouldn't diminish who you are. It shouldn't diminish your view of yourself. Why? Because it wouldn't serve you.
where people realize that their purpose is not out, their purpose is in as the highest version of themselves.
Deciding for yourself, where do you want to go? And what price are you willing to pay to get there? Guys, the struggle is guaranteed. The struggle is guaranteed. The struggle is guaranteed. The success is not.